It is time for the game that everyone wants to win, no one can afford to lose. Michigan, Ohio State, the 50th meeting between these two as ranked opponents. Of course, the Wolverines leading the charge both historically and as of late. They've won 4 straight. Sherrone looking at some history we'll talk about in a minute. Of course, Ohio State a perfect 15-0 dating back to last year's loss. We know the pressure that Ryan Day has faced since that moment. We will see if he can keep his program perfect in this big game that everyone looks forward to. So let's set the stage. And to do so, we welcome in the 24/7 sports reporters of Dave Biddle covering Ohio State and Sam Webb tackling Michigan. I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of this rivalry over the years, but let's start with the #1 team in the country, guys. The Buckeyes have rattled off 15 straight since losing to that team up north last year. There's always an eye on Ryan Day here, Dave. Last year, the fire the coach chants were very loud. How much louder do they get if that streak falls to 5 straight losses in this rivalry, Dave?
Yeah, he wouldn't lose his job. He would be coaching for his job, Haley, if they didn't win the national championship last year. That definitely bought him some time. Now, I don't speak for everybody in Buckeye Nation, but I know he would not lose his job if he loses on Saturday against Michigan. That being said, there's a lot of pressure on Ryan Day here. Even John Cooper didn't lose 5 straight to Michigan. He lost 4 straight, but he didn't lose 5 straight. He got that tie in 1992 to save him from losing 5 straight. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of pressure on Ryan Day. Again, it's mitigated by the fact that Ohio State was able to dust themselves off after that loss last year, going a really magical 4-game run in the college football playoff, really dominant 4-game run. So it definitely bought Ryan Day some time, but he definitely needs to get this monkey off his back. There's no question about it.
Ryan Day had some notes on him, has only beat the Wolverines once back in 2019. That was his first full year at the helm. As I mentioned, he's been blanked ever since. And to your point, Dave, can't go 0-5 against your rival. On the other side of this one, though, there's another streak that matters. Of course, the only one that matters is the 4 straight wins for Michigan, Sam. And when we look at Sherrone, he's set to make some history. If he can win 2 in a row against Ohio State, would be the first coach in a very long time to do so, to start out his career as head coach at Michigan. Obviously, though, this team has bigger plans than just a rivalry win. So in terms of that conversation of what the Wolverines can get out of this win, what's the atmosphere like there for Michigan?
Actually, Haley, it would be 3 in a row. Remember, he coached as the interim coach in the national championship year. So Sherrone is feeling pretty confident heading into this one. And I think the team is. Ohio State heading into this game used to have like a 2-touchdown lead stepping on the field. They had that intimidation factor. And that's just gone now. And I think that's an issue for them. And I think if you're Sherrone, you look at this as an opportunity because the pressure is on Ryan Day. And they're catching you at your low point. Like last year was the lowest. The little known fact about Michigan is the last 2 years of the Harbaugh era were really the low point in recruiting. I mean, the irony is they were winning the national championship and recruiting was an inverse relationship. Recruiting was dipping. I mean, they were getting barely top 20 recruiting classes, number 19 and number 20. So these last 2 classes were really subpar. Those are the classes that are really on the field right now for Sherrone. So you're like, hey, I got like 6 freshmen playing on offense, a freshman quarterback. I won last year with an offense that couldn't throw the football across the street. So if he doesn't get me now, he's definitely not going to get me later. I'm playing with house money. So this is an opportunity for Sherrone to really hit him when he's at his lowest, because when he goes down the line, that's when he's going to be at the high point.
Lloyd Carr, the last head coach to win his first 2 starts against Ohio State, factoring in that championship that Sherrone coached against. He's already hit that point, but either way, going to be a big one if he can get it done. We also know, though, fellas, it's week 14, so the injury bug has happened. It has affected both of these teams, maybe one more than the other here, as you've got a couple of sidelines, or a couple superstars sidelined, that is. So, Dave, we'll start with you first. When it comes to those Ohio State injuries, partner that with some wintry weather and some freezing conditions, how much of a challenge will this be for Ohio State?
A big challenge. It was going to be a big challenge regardless, going up to the Big House and playing against this defense. This will be the best team Ohio State's faced all year. I mean, Texas was supposed to be really good. Maybe Texas would be barely favored over Michigan on a neutral field. I would take Michigan on a neutral field. So, yeah, it would be tough regardless, and this just adds to it tenfold. Now, I do think Jeremiah Smith. I had a couple of sources that I really trust, two sources that I really trust earlier this week on Monday, and I put this out there on 24/7 Sports that Jeremiah Smith is going to play. Now, how effective will he be? We'll find out. He's like one shot away from not being able to play because he's definitely banged up. Definitely banged up. I've heard quad, I've heard lower back, perhaps both. But he is going to play, my sources tell me. Ryan Day kind of backed that up this week when he was asked about it. He was coy about it, but kind of backed that up. Carnell Tate's more mysterious to me. It went from, he's dressed against Purdue, could have played, and then goes from could have played against Purdue to definitely out the next 2 games. So he's missed 3 straight games. Again, I have sources telling me Carnell Tate is expected to play. My take on that is he probably will play. He'll probably suit up and play, but he'll be on a pitch count. Whereas Jeremiah Smith will not be on a pitch count, but he, as long as he stays somewhat healthy, he might be 85% healthy. But Ohio State will take that. Overall, this deep into the season, Ohio State's a pretty healthy football team. They're very healthy on the defensive side of the ball. Lorenzo Styles Jr., I think, might miss this game. He's the one exception to that rule. So we'll see. I think overall Ohio State's in pretty good shape health-wise, but it's certainly sounded alarm bells in Columbus here the last couple of weeks with those 2 studs being on the shelf. But we'll see what happens. I mean, Michigan's dealing with their own injuries. I know Sam's going to get into that. Every football team on planet Earth is dealing with injuries to key players late in November. So overall, I think Ohio State's in good shape. I expect both of those wide receivers will play.
Yeah, Michigan is no stranger to the injury bug. The most explosive player on offense, Justice Haynes, has been out since the Michigan State game. And then his partner in crime in the offensive backfield, Jordan Marshall, got injured in the Northwestern game and obviously sat out the Maryland game just a week ago. Now, they said he could have played. So they are expecting him to be ready to go for Ohio State. All signs point to that. But Max Bredesen, the fullback for Michigan, got hurt in that game, had a press conference last night. He's clearly banged up, but anyone who knows Max expects that unless he has a limb falling off, he is going to be on that football field. So you can expect to see Max Bredesen out there. Defensive captain Ernest Hausman missed the game, didn't travel. They said it wasn't injury related, been working through something, but he's been practicing, off the field, been practicing all week. So odds are we see him, but they've been kind of, haven't been too revealing as to what the expectations are there. So remains to be seen. So there are some ifs, ands, and buts there as far as Michigan is concerned with some really significant players, but most of the guys that are in question are expected to be on the field for him on Saturday.
Always got to keep that information close to your chest, guys. Can't give it out early so the opposition won't know. I will add in there that Saturday's weather forecast, a balmy 31 degrees, light afternoon snow, 64% precipitation, and a slight wind. So it's going to be perfect weather for some of the folks up there who enjoy football. Just one of the many storylines we're following. Of course, one of the biggest storylines for both of these teams has been the 2 young quarterbacks behind center. Of course, Julian Sayin, Bryce Underwood. I'm excited to see what these 2 look like going head to head, but also curious, and Sam, I'll start with you, how much of their legacy will be impacted in this big game? We know Bryce Underwood was paid a lot of money to stay in Michigan. How much will his legacy be impacted in this game?
It's the beginning of it. I mean, certainly you can get it started off on a high note if you win your very first outing against the Buckeyes, right? So I think for Bryce, he is very much motivated by doing something that hasn't been done before. So to be the first guy from Michigan to go out against the Buckeyes and win your first one, in Ohio State coming in for the first time in 52 years as the top-ranked team. I mean, he is motivated by that. That means something to him. But I also think that he is very mature in understanding that he can't make it about him. Yeah, that is the recipe for going out and getting your team beat. And so I think there's been a lesson over the course of this year for him in trying to make sure that you take the steps necessary, because it hasn't been a constant sort of step up the staircase for him in his development. Some of the games he has looked very freshman-like. Last week, he looked like a veteran, but that's been a cumulative effect of his growth. And so I think this game will be about, hey, taking what the defense gives you, not trying to do too much. And if the end result is a victory, great. It will be a great legacy starter, but I don't think that will be the motivation for him. Hey, this is my legacy. I'm going to try to do something that hasn't been done before. If that's the result, great, but I don't think it'll be what drives him in the game as he goes out there.
I agree. I think this is bigger for Julian Sands' legacy than Bryce Underwood. Bryce will have 2 more games after this one at least. Julian probably only 1. I look at, like, at first I thought there's no way he's going to be 3 and done, right? He's not a very tall quarterback. I look at mock drafts now for the next draft, 2027. A lot of people have Julian Sands as the #1 overall pick. So this will probably be his one and only chance to go to Ann Arbor. His team's favored by 10.5 points. So if you're Bryce Underwood, you're a true freshman, your team's a 10.5 point underdog, not as much pressure on you. There's more pressure on Julian Sands here. I've been very impressed with him. Both young men have been impressed with their poise. So you think about a true freshman quarterback and a redshirt freshman, you wonder, is the moment going to look too big from them? Like, from the Texas game on, Julian Sands really impressed me with his poise, his composure. Now, obviously, his accuracy is his calling card, his best attribute, and it's very, very impressive. I've never seen a quarterback that accurate, but he hasn't faced a defense like this. He has not faced a defense like this. He's not faced a pressure environment like this. You know, the game itself, the fact that it's at the Big House, he's faced nothing like this. But he has a little bit of an advantage here over Bryce, in my opinion, the fact that he is now in his 2nd year, right? Even though he's still technically a freshman, a redshirt freshman, at least this is his 2nd year in the system. And as we've seen, he's been very calm, very accurate. We'll see, though. This will be a different test for him. He's got his wide receivers banged up, hasn't looked as great the last couple of weeks, but we'll see how he does this week. I feel like Julian Sands is going to have a good game. He doesn't need to have a great game. Ohio State's defense, I think, will win this game for them if they win. But he can't have a bad game. He's got to have a solid game, and I think he will.
We will have to wait and see who's going to have that solid game. We know that Michigan has won 4 straight, but we also know the Wolverines are 1-3-1 versus the #1 Buckeyes all time. And as we know, the Buckeyes come into this one not only as the #1 team, fellas, but as you mentioned, Dave, a 10.5 point road favorite. So I'll give you first word here. Who wins this season-defining matchup?
Yeah, I think this is going to be just a classic Ohio State-Michigan game. It'll be one in the trenches. There's no doubt about it. It always is. And, turnovers, special teams will definitely play a role. I feel like Ohio State's the better team. Michigan having the home field advantage will be big. This will be, I think, a tight game. I think Ohio State is going to pull away a little bit in the second half. I have Ohio State winning this game 27-13.
Yeah, so the formula is the same for Michigan. You got to dictate the style of this fight. And I think they know how to do that. It is understanding that offense and defense, you control the pace and the space of the game. When you're on defense, you got to keep everything in front. If Ohio State scores, they have to score in 8 or 9 plays. They need to be long drives. You need to drag this game into the fourth quarter because a close game in the fourth quarter is advantage Michigan. It's psychological warfare. This is the enemy of Ryan Day. He does not want a close game in the fourth quarter, and that's what I think it will be. In a fourth quarter game, Michigan wins 27-24.
Okay, I feel like I got to lean a little towards the Sam Webb side. As we were talking before, he's got a lot of luck. But you know what, Dave? Just for today's purposes, I'm going to Ohio State, just so that I can give you a little extra luck on your side. Guys, we appreciate the time and the insight. Enjoy what I'm sure will be another instant classic here in the game. It is not the only rivalry game happening this weekend. In fact, it's not the only rivalry game with serious college football playoff implications. The Egg Bowl, safe to say that will be very watched. We're all waiting to hear what Lane Kiffin will do next. That one gets underway at noon Eastern. The Iron Bowl, we talked about it with Chip Patterson earlier in the day. Weird things happen at Jordan-Hare at night as Alabama enters as a 6.5 point favorite. We also get Texas A&M Texas with big implications in the Lone Star State.